Hey, I'm Alec from MatterHackers, and today I'm going to show you how to make an open-face silicone mold. With 3D printing, you're able to take an idea that you've thought of, turn it virtual, and then physical. And that's not a new thing, but it's a lot more accessible with 3D printing. You can print aftermarket parts for your car, organizational tools for your kitchen, or your desk, or your workbench, or even advanced and intricate props and costumes. Now, if you make something that's really popular and a lot of people like, and they want from you, like friends, family, potential clients, well, 3D printing is sometimes time intensive, and if you want to print something like this took about 30 hours. So I can print that over and over, 30 hours each, or do it once, make the model look perfect, and make a mold and cast it, and have dozens of these within a couple hours. The first mold that we're going to look into is an open-faced silicone mold, and that's the easiest one to work with, but it is limited in what kind of models you can do. So let's look into what exactly open-face molds are best suited for. Before you start making your open-face silicone mold, we actually need to take a look at what models are best suited for this technique. So let's take a look. Open-face molds are best used with models that are basically only extrusions. So all these logos are vertical walls, maybe they're at a 45, they don't have any overhangs, or if they do, they're very minimal. Those work best with an open face, especially the part where it has a flat bottom. Because it's an open face mold, one side of it is going to have to be completely flat. To make an open face silicone mold, you need a mold box. Now today we're going to mold this MatterHackers logo, and it's about 4 inches by 4 inches. So with a mold box, you want to make sure there's at least ½ inch on every side. So we're going to go with about 5 inches from length and width, and then height, it's about ½ inch. So we'll go 1.5 just so we have room to not overflow. Now, what you use to make the mold box is totally up to you. I'm going to use foam core since it's cheap and really easy to work with. I just need a razor blade to cut through it. You could use MDF or plywood or really whatever you have. It's just something that you're going to use and then throw away. Since I'm just going to use foam core, I'm going to use a hot glue gun to assemble the box. And that way when I'm done, I can just tear it apart or use a little rubbing alcohol to weaken the glue and just peel it apart easy. With the model that you've decided to mold, you need to make sure that it's perfect. Any blemish, imperfection, scratch removing support material, all of that will be captured in every casting. So in that case, you may want to watch our other video on how to finish PLA models. It's the same for ABS or PETG. It's just, you need to make sure that your model is exactly to your liking. Otherwise, every casting will be exactly like it. Since 3D prints are usually printed with infill, that means they're going to be less dense than the silicone and want to float away. So you're going to need to use either hot glue or super glue or something to adhere it to the bottom of the mold box. In my case, I already have hot glue out, so I'm just going to use more of that. A property inherent to silicone is that it only sticks to more silicone. Even still, depending on the geometry of your model, it may want to cling on to the sides. In that case, Man 200 Ease Release is what I'm going to be using to help release the model when I'm done molding it. You can also use clear coats, just spray paints from the hardware store. It's just something to form a barrier around the model before you start molding. Traditionally, when making a mold of something, you need to know the volume of the object. You could do that by either roughly estimating the dimensions of it, or filling a container with rice and seeing how much the model will displace the rice. But in our case, since it's a 3D print, we can use a 3D model to find the exact volume. I like to use NetFab because it's a free program, and just right off the bat you upload the model into the program and it will just say on the side, here's how big it is. There are two main types of silicone, tin cure and platinum cure. Today I'm going to use a platinum cure, in this case TC5060, and it's a little more sensitive to inhibitors within the model, but I'm not worried about that, and with a platinum cure I'm going to get much higher quality out of the silicone. Depending on the brand and type of silicone, there are different methods and techniques that you need to apply to mixing it. With TC5060, it mixes 100 to 10 by weight. So if the silicone is 589.6 grams and I need 100 to 10 by weight, then part A should weigh 536 grams and part B should weigh 53.6. To start off with, you want to keep part A and part B separate until you're absolutely ready to start molding. So I measured out part A, I measured out part B, and then I combined them in a bowl. And this just gave me a little more room to work with. And once I start pouring, the clock starts ticking. TC5060 has a pot life of 30 minutes, which means as soon as the two halves are mixed together, I have 30 minutes before it starts setting solid. Now there's two different methods to actually pouring the silicone. You can either use a vacuum degasser, which if you're just starting off, you're not going to have. So today I'm going to do is what's called the bombs away method. You take the mold box, you take your cup full of silicone, and you're going to pour it from as high as you can without spilling, and you're going to try and get the stream of silicone that you pour out to be as thin as you can. What that's going to do is that's going to either pop all of the small air bubbles you have or minimize just how many are in the mold. Anywhere you have a bubble within the mold, you're going to actually end up with a small pimple on every casting after that point. So you want to do your best to minimize air bubbles, and that's what the bombs away method helps with. With the silicone poured, I still had some time left before it started setting. So I took a stick and I started tapping on the sides of it. Now what that does is that helps separate any of the bubbles that may have clung onto the side of the model and cause those to rise to the surface. So it's just one more thing you can do to help minimize how many bubbles are in your mold. Once your mold starts setting, don't touch it. What can actually happen is if you touch silicone that isn't completely cured, it will stick to your finger and pull away from the model that's buried deep within the silicone. Now it doesn't sound like a big problem, but what can happen is it will cure in that shape and you're going to get sort of a bulge forming on the model, which if you're molding something is the opposite of what you want to happen. So just let it sit, wait the full cure time. In my case, I finished the mold at the end of the day, came back the next morning, and that was enough time for it to cure solid. Now that the silicone's all cured, I can take apart the mold box. A little rubbing alcohol will make quick work of the hot glue, or you can just be like a kid on Christmas and tear apart the box. It really doesn't matter, we're just gonna throw it out in the end anyways. Once you get the mold out of the mold box, you're gonna find some flashing. And flashing is where there was a little silicone that seeped under the model or it seeped into the cracks of the mold box. And to get rid of that, just use an art knife and just gently cut away at it. You don't want to pull the silicone tight, just leave it loose and gently cut it off. Now that you have your mold finished, you can work with a huge variety of resins for casting. So you can work with squishy foams, dense foams, expanding foams, light foams. Mix it with iron powder or brass powder, things to make it look like wood. Or you can dye your resins with a variety of colors. Make your yellow print have red castings or blue castings. But what you don't want to do is mix chocolate or ice or gummy and use that on this mold, unless you bought a specific food grade silicone. Silicones are all different, and unless it's food grade, don't mix food with it. Simple as that. I happen to have Smooth Cast 300Q on hand, so I mixed that together real quick, and within 10 minutes I had a finished casting. And that's all there is to it. Now I'm going to be doing a lot more mold making videos, depending on each technique that exists, and there's a whole variety of them. So stay tuned for that. If you feel like I missed anything, we do have a write-up about this video and some of the more in-depth things about it, so feel free to read that. Otherwise, leave a comment down below. I'm Alec from MatterHackers, thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. If you liked that, subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with all the latest videos. And don't forget, go to MatterHackers.com to shop for everything 3D printing.